G'day folks, welcome to this quick example of play of Caesar's Gallic War. This is a 2009 design by Worthington Games. It is a fairly standard block game, very similar to those published by Columbia Games. It has been likened a fair bit to Hammer of the Scots. You have, this is midway through the game, we're at the start of the third turn. I thought I'd stop here and demonstrate how this all works. The Romans aren't doing too well. They start off with their legions down in Transalpine Gaul. They really need to push north, secure some Gallic allies, and defeat their opponents. Now, incidentally, it's one of the interesting features of this game that this game depicts Rome versus Germania. So one player plays Rome, the other player plays Germanic tribes up here in the northeast. And both sides sort of vie for control and influence over the Gallic and Belgic tribes. And they do that through card play, through conquering their home regions, and along the way winning battles. You can see all the names of the groups printed on the map. You've got the Arverni here, the Ardui up here, the Boii down here, Alabrogs, Secani, familiar names for those familiar with Caesar's Gallic conquest. One thing to point out is that there is very little, in fact there is nothing, to distinguish these tribes from each other on the blocks in terms of the quality of those troops. So for example, the Arverni are a C-rated unit with 3 steps when full, and they hit on a 2 or less. The Veneti, a kind of coastal tribe, are C-rated, 3 steps when at max, and they hit on a 2 less. The only, I guess, subtle distinction between them is the number of blocks they have. So the Arverni come with 2 blocks. The Veneti only come with 1. That's pretty much the only distinction between controlling this area versus controlling that area. It's similar with the Roman forces as well. You've got Caesar with his 10th Legion. He's an A-ranked unit, 4 steps when full. He hits on a 3 or less. That little 3 down here is the, I don't know, it's the only. There's another distinguishing feature in that he will always roll first. All the other Roman legions are the same. 4 steps when full, A-ranked, hitting on a 2 or less. What these numbers mean is several things. The steps indicate the number of dice they roll in combat. The A indicates the order of their attack. So A combat rated units roll before the B combat units, and they roll before the C combat units. So you go A's and then B's and then C's. They roll dice equal to their steps. They need to roll less than that number in the lower right, and the vast majority of these are 2, except for Caesar and his 10th Legion, and you inflict hits if you roll that number or less. So those of you familiar with Columbia's block games, Julius Caesar, Hammer of the Scots, many others, that's pretty standard. You'll kind of grasp the rules almost immediately. This is a sort of a card-driven game. So at the start of each turn, each player is dealt 5 cards, and as you can see the Roman side, I'll show you the Roman hand. So no events for the Romans. They have lots of 2s and a 1. The Romans start first, and basically both players select a card simultaneously, but the Romans play theirs first. Once per turn, once per year basically, the Romans can play a card to bring a Gallic tribe over to their side. Now looking at what I've got here, the Bictonians are way out here, so maybe not them. The Secani are already my allies, so I don't need them. The Ardui are already my allies as well, so I don't need them, which leaves the Arverni and the Biterges. The Arverni would be great because they're kind of within the thick of things here. Biterges are... where actually are they? Here they are, right in the middle as well. So I've either got the Averni or the Berger's. I'm going to go with the Averni. So basically what I do is I play that card and the Averni join the Roman cause. They stand their blocks up at full strength. They are mine. At the same time, the Germanic tribes have also selected a card, and they, let me think about what they're going to do. They are going to select, they can select, whereas the Romans can only draw one new tribe, one new ally in per year, the Germanic tribes can do this twice. And they are going to start by drawing in the Carnutes. So basically they stand this up at full strength. They've now joined their side. And they are discarded. You continue in this way for, well, 5 card plays. But, as I said, the Romans can only do that once per turn. The other actions are, well, you can play a card for the event. The Romans need supplies to do various things. Let's see how this works. The Romans select a card. Let's say they select the Sicani for 2. They increase their supplies by 2, which is off to the left of the board up there. They need these supplies for various things, mainly winter quartering and replenishing the steps of their units. The Germanic tribe, let's see what else they can do. They can do political actions, or they can use the numbers on their cards for movements. So I'll show you how movement works, basically. 1, they're playing a 1 value card. They can activate one group of units. Ideally, they want to get these Germanic tribes over onto the board. The river crossing here means they can only move 2 units per border. So they're going to go 2 across to there and 1 across to there. And that's it, they're done. Proceeding to the 3rd turn now, the Romans would like to do something on their turn, so they're going to spend 2 ops, I guess we can say, 2 actions, to do movement actions as well. They're going to activate this group, and they're going to activate this group here. So the Romans can cross, well, any force can cross a black border with 6 units, so we can bring up to 6 of our legions over here. And let's confront the boy who were initially on our side, but they betrayed us. So we'll cross our force into here, and we'll cross our force into here. Now, as with many other block games, if you've got 2 forces converging in a battle site, one has to be designated the main force. So let's say that this is the main force, and these are reserves. So they will only join combat in the 2nd round. Let's see how this goes, and I'll demonstrate how combat works. So normally with 2 players, you'd face the blocks opposing each other. These are my reserves, so they'll arrive later. And we look to see how many A's we've got. I've got 1 A ranked unit. They're at 4 steps, so they'll roll 4 dice, hitting on a 2 or less. I score 1 hit. That's 1 dead Gallic group. Now, the C's fire, but the defender always gets to fire first. They've only got 1 step left. They don't score a hit. Now we come to the attacking C-ranked units. They've got 4 steps here, so 4 dice, needing a 2 or less. They've got 2 hits. That's enough to destroy them. The reserves don't need to arrive, but they're there anyway, and we have captured the Boy region. Okay, the Germans respond through play of just 1 op. And what are they going to do? Let's converge their forces down here and try and end the turn with something actually. We'll move our forces into there, into there. There's a path here which will let them connect. Oh, they can only bring 2 across. So they'll bring those 2 across. Big force of 5, I'm hoping to cross over here. I'll skip forward a bit. There's 2 more rounds to go. You can see how this plays out quite quickly. The end of turn sequence is pretty important. eliminated Gallic tribes return home. So the Boii who were eliminated earlier would return to their home region. It is now Roman occupied. This means that they join the Roman side, they return to play, joining the Roman side. Their blocks return at 1 strength each. They are now Roman allies. Relatively weak, but Roman allies nonetheless. Then Roman legions return home. So again, I'm fast forwarding, there'll be 2 more action plays, but these guys would all return home. Now I could opt to keep some of these legions out in the field, and I need to spend supplies for that in a moment. First of all, you choose what legions you want to return home. Caesar can winter out in the field. He can't do this on consecutive turns. Then Gallic tribes controlled by the Romans return home. So basically the Dewey here would return back to their home region. Then Gallic tribes controlled by the German player would return home. So they're all in their home region, I think. Then finally, German legions return home. You then check tribal area, you count up how many tribes are controlled, you mark that on the administrative board. Then the Roman player pays a supply point for each legion wintering outside of Rome. So if they want to keep their forces sort of in the middle of Gaul, they'll need to pay a lot of supply points for the pleasure of doing so. They then can spend supply points to build steps on their legions that have been reduced to bring them up to strength. And then you have Roman reinforcements potentially arriving based on the turn track. What this all means is that the Romans are really under the pump to drive out and capture these areas, retain control of these areas, almost garrisoning them and ensuring that they stay on their side. There are political cards as well that you can play. So basically you can play a card to roll a die to try to swing your opposing allies over to your side. And that's about it. In a really quick nutshell, that is how to play Caesar's Gallic War. I know I've really condensed that here, but it plays out pretty quickly. It is fairly fast playing block game, driven by those cards. There are events as well, which I haven't really covered, but they're pretty straightforward to implement. There are sort of minor and major revolts. And then at the end of 8 turns of play, you determine the winner. The Roman player gets victory points for eliminating Germanic non-leader units. They get 2 victory points if they eliminate Ariovistus, 3 victory points if they eliminate Vercingetorix. He comes out via the major revolt card. The Germanic player is focused on eliminating Roman legions. They get 3 victory points for each Roman legion eliminated in battle. So yeah, it's both sides are trying to recruit allies, build up their forces, and then focus on destroying kind of, I guess, the main forces of the opposing player in battle. So it's a race to get to kind of build up those forces as quickly as possible, hold on to those forces, and then bring the battle to their opponent. It's interesting though, because this is pitted as a war of Rome versus Germania, or Germanic tribes, and the Germanic tribes start up here in the northeast. It kind of shifts the attention along this eastern border of Gaul. I've found that, you can see here, relatively little happens out in the west. There are smaller tribes, they're less valuable, they're further from the focus of the fighting. Your fighting will really be oriented around this sort of central area. It's an interesting design choice to present this as sort of Rome versus Germania, rather than Rome versus Gaul, or Rome versus Vercingetorix, or the Aedui, or Averni, or anything like that. They do come out. Vercingetorix comes out and has special abilities, and the Romans get 3 victory points if they can kill him. But most of the focus of the fighting is really against this eastern sector where Germanic tribes come out. They're recruiting around this area, building up their alliances, and And yeah, this is kind of where Rome also has to go to quell these uprisings and to defeat the main Germanic force. The main Germanic tribal counters are B rated, and they're stronger in combat compared to most of the Gallic. So folks, that is Caesar's Gallic War in a nutshell. Hopefully that gives you kind of a quick sense of how it plays. If you're familiar with block games, you really should grasp this quite quickly. If you're interested in Caesar's Gallic Wars and Caesar's campaign against the Gauls and Vercingetorix, look, this is nice as a block game. I would recommend Caesar Rome versus Gaul as a more probably as a tenser, more interesting game. That was a recent design by Mark Simonitz, published by GMT Games. And then of course there's Falling Skies, the Coin series game, which sort of probes down in more detail, and it just takes this to another gaming level. Three very different gaming experiences that offer very different things. You've got kind of the traditional card-driven game element of Caesar Rome versus Gaul, the block game element of this design, Caesar's Gallic Wars, and the coin counterinsurgency treatment of Falling Skies. They all offer very different experiences and are all tied to the history in different ways. But this one, certainly worth checking out if you can get your hand on a copy. It was published about 12 years ago in 2009. This is Caesar's Gallic War by Worthington Games.